Hello. How you doing? Okay, so I actually did a Friday one at 2 o'clock. Although I'm still one behind, but we're all right now. Okay, so this is the uh, the fourth class for those who are or fourth video, I should say. I says class number 4, but it's the fourth video. Just understand that. Anyway, I'm going to cover what Genesis chapters 1 through 11 are for us. It's a little different. This is not going to be a very long video. There's a lot of stuff in there, but it's what Genesis chapters 1 through 11 means for us. Uh, First of all, the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, form what is called the Torah. And some people translate that as the law, some as the way of life, etc., the way of righteousness. Okay, there's a lot of ways of looking at it or interpreting it, but we just say Torah, and it's the folk. It's the law of God for the Jewish people and for us Christians as well. We read it and we mostly follow it. No, actually, be very careful about that because a lot of the small laws concerning rituals and even how you keep house, we don't follow those any longer because the laws are very specific. I'm going to assign you to read some of it, okay? But that's not right now. It'll be in a little bit, okay? Because we've already covered a little bit of Abraham this past, or actually Adam and Eve, a little bit of Abraham. But what I want to focus on is chapters 1 through 11, which are the founding stories of our relationship with God, right? They're not histories. They're very short. I mean, with the time period they cover is immense. The beginning of everything. And we know that as human beings, we've been on this planet just as our species of human beings for 250,000 years. And there are other types of what we call humanoids. We have evidence of them, and they've lived hundreds of thousands of years before that. We know that there were other creatures that existed before. We call them dinosaurs as a general rule. But there are all types of different creatures, all types of different living organisms that have existed. There are still some from those times that have made it to this time. So we're investigating still. We're learning so much more. The time period that we are discussing when it concerns the Bible is just the past few thousand years. Okay, really about these past 2,000 plus 6,000 before Jesus. So the Bible itself only covers about 6,000 years. And so that's a lot of years, 6 millennia to put into about 1,800, 1,900 pages in a standard Bible. So it wasn't trying to be an exhaustive history. It gives you the important things about the whole people of God. We need to understand this first of all about the Bible, what it is trying to do for us. Is trying to give us how we relate to God and how God relates to us. So the first 11 chapters of Genesis, that's the creation story. The first chapter is what we commonly think of as the second, much, much later creation story. It's very well written, defined, very beautiful, it's a beautiful piece of work, of course. And it's poetic in its form. And we realize, well, this was written much, much later as the people grew and developed. They began to understand the universe. But how did they understand the universe? Well, they learned from a lot of peoples that they were around. Remember that the Hebrew people are started off as a bunch of people from all sorts of different groups of peoples that had come together. They weren't all biological descendants of Abraham. It's impossible. He had a few, we know about Ismael from Hagar, and we know about Isaac. Excuse me, yeah, Isaac comes from his mother Sarah or Sarai, uh, and then after Sarah dies, Abraham hooks up again, gets married again, and has a bunch of other kids as well. And you can read that in the scripture, and those become different peoples that we really don't exist today. They just became different groups of peoples and went off on their own, but eventually, would become part of what is now called the Jewish people, and some became part of other peoples. Understand this when we read the scripture. The Bible is trying to get us to understand who God is and how we relate to Him and why things are the way they are with God. So that first chapter, we understand the whole universe. And we learned a lot of that, what we call cosmology, which is the structure of the cosmos, the structure of the known universe. We learned a lot of that from all the other people. I mean, the Egyptians were ancient astronomers, as well as the people in the Iraqi, Iran, and Syrian territories. So the Babylonians, different other groups of people, Assyrians. That there were other peoples beyond that. I mean, we now know of them who are living what's called in India, even in China. They all were doing, astronomy or astrology, whatever you want to call it, but they were all looking up to the heavens and noting how things relate and how even life here on earth relates to the movement of stars. So that's what you receive in that first chapter, that everything was put into its beautiful order. And it's put into a poetic frame called the 7 days. Okay. And where do we get the 7 days from? Well, from one cycle of the moon to the next is 4 weeks. And that even they decided, they broke it up into 7 days. 4 times 7 is 28. So I mean, that's how it worked out. And it's pretty much the calendar that most of the world still uses, even though everybody's gotten accustomed to our calendar called the solar calendar, which is based on the solar year. 365 days, 365 and a quarter days per year. For the Earth to go around the sun. But we didn't think like that back then. It's only pretty recently that we understand ourselves not as the center of the universe, but that we go around the sun, and the sun is, this part of this particular galaxy, solar system, which is a part of many solar systems called the Milky Way galaxy. And it's just one galaxy amongst many, many galaxies. So this is immense. What we understand is that you and I can understand that. We've learned. We didn't invent this. We've uncovered it. I don't usually don't use the word discovered. Okay. It's been uncovered, revealed. And when we use the word revelation, that's what we're talking about. It's not like there was this massive secret that all of a sudden was just plopped down in front of us and we knew it. No, it's an uncovering over time to an understanding of who God is. And He has been leading us. And there are moments where He steps in and really pushes us to another deeper understanding. So, besides that first chapter, the simple, basic, creation poem, then the second chapter, the whole thing with Adam and Eve. Third chapter, original sin. And then you go on chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7, you're going to get the story of Noah and the ark. At the end of that is the Tower of Babel. Okay, I mean, you have the history of Cain and Abel. After Adam and Eve get kicked out of the garden, then they have sex. And they start reproducing. They produce Cain and Abel, and Cain and Abel. Well, Abel's cool with Cain, but Cain is not cool with Abel. But for interesting reasons, and it sets up a world where we started off in blessedness, God providing everything, and then we proceeded to just muck it up because we won't obey God and his ways. Now, according to our understanding of history, at this time, there's still no written law. The law hasn't been revealed to Moses. But all of these things are written after the law of God has been revealed through Moses for his people. Okay? So just understand that those first 11 chapters, they tell a lot about who we are. And not necessarily about how it happened. That's just the storyline. That's the way to communicate the simple truth. All right? That we started off in blessedness, and God is a good God, and he created it, and he said it's all good. It's beautiful. And then we proceed to find ways to make a mess of things. And God is still our God. God is still with us. God is still trying, even after we started murdering each other. Brothers fighting. The enemies that come up in these first 11 chapters aren't, they're not supposed to be enemies. Even Noah has a son, Ham, who apparently saw his dad naked. And many people try to translate that into some different things, and maybe they try to make it into something more sexual. Whatever it was seeing his father as less of a man. That's what it was. He saw his father not as his father, not as someone to be respected, but as someone to be mocked, even though he covered up his nakedness. All right. And Ham gets exiled. Then it becomes, why is Ham getting kicked out? Because he covered up his naked dad. You see, there's more to the story, right? It's telling us that you and I have to understand. You have to respect your elders. Or as the fourth commandment tells us, you honor your father and your mother. And even when they are weak, you are not allowed to show signs of disrespect. And that's what happened with Ham. And he was removed, and 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 this is where again, it's part of the history of our peoples, part of the history of the Jewish peoples. They believe that all the African peoples are descendants of Ham. Because Ham was exiled from the garden, and he wound up going down the African area and became a huge amount of people. Again, putting emphasis on the fact that even when we mess up with each other, and you can look and say Noah was being unjust to his son for whatever reason. He felt that his son disrespected him. It doesn't matter what the reason was. You can look at that and say that was not proper respect either. He was being unjust. Still, God is with Ham. God is with Noah. God is still for his people in spite of our constant sinning against each other. And then the Tower of Babel. Great story, right? Okay. Well, I just skipped over the whole flood of Noah. Um, Maybe because I do want to touch on that in a different video with a little more depth. But when you think about Noah building his ark, because God is going to, destroy the face of the earth because the people have acted terribly, and the angels have mated with humans and created a race of giants called the Nephilim. So God is looking at the people and going, they're perverted. They've perverted my creation. I need to wipe them out. And so he tells Noah, Noah, I've got to start from scratch. And you're the guy I choose. You're going to save, with the little bit of humanity that's left, that's not perverted, and you're going to save animals, creatures of the earth. Builds the ark to survive the flood. Okay. The flood comes. You can read the story of the flood if you want. It's there. I think it's Genesis 9 and 10, and the whole story about Noah being out there, it rained for 40 days and for 40 nights, and the earth was full and flooded. Yes, we do have from other cultures. There is a tale of a terrible, terrible flood that pretty much covered everything. And some people say, well, maybe it was an ice age. Could have been the last ice age. And there were still memories of that from our ancestors. Maybe. The twist is on this whole flood thing is that God preserved his creation in spite of all of this terrible destruction. He wouldn't let his plan be destroyed. He won't let our sins do that. And even when there's terrible disasters, natural disasters, no, he won't let that happen either. So this understanding of a God who has created all of this, and he wants it to stay. He wants it to keep it alive and growing in spite of this tendency of the creation to destroy itself. Some may ask a simple question. Why did God create something that can actually destroy itself? Yes, that's a very good question. We always answer it with, well, it's freedom. Freedom. Okay. And this is where we begin the real struggle of being a child, a son, a daughter of God. The question of what is freedom? What does it mean? Because we understand more than any other. I mean, we're a very social grouping of people. We have families, and of course, we're born to a mom, dad, at least a mom, and we're taken care of, and eventually we become part of a community of people, and we're expected to be part of that community. But there's always been this thing inside of us that says, I don't have to. I don't have to be a part of this community. I don't have to obey a God. I don't have to do this if I don't want to. The freedom. No other creature has it. Creatures are not free. The plants are not free. Nothing's free in this world. It's very determined. They are what they are. They can only act in certain ways. They don't have choice. But we discover there's a thing called choice. I can say no. There are consequences to saying no. Yeah, true. But the ability to do so, why are we created with that? I'm going to tell you straight up. Jesus embraces this freedom in humanity, and he shows it constantly. He is totally free. So free that he doesn't get married, doesn't make babies, has no property, doesn't own anything. He doesn't even have to eat. He can heal when he wants. He doesn't, if he disagrees with the way everybody says he's supposed to live, he just will simply say, "You're wrong. This is the way to live." And he's never been a bully. We're bullies. Okay. I can be a bully. You can be a bully, but Jesus is not a bully. This God is different. And to fully understand who we are and that we belong to him and he is for us. And even yes, we are a people, but like I said, we started out as a people made up of many peoples. Okay, and what's known as the Jewish people or the Hebrew people is just that. It's many peoples that have come together under the leadership of Abraham eventually, and who would become truly under the leadership of God himself. That's amazing. It's very different. It's very different. So I just wanted to give that to you as your this is the video for today because I really need to say those things. And you can like re-listen to it. And if you have, of course, you have questions or comments, you can always send a little note. But we will be seeing each other Sunday night. I hope you're there. I will probably also live stream the class. I just got to make sure somebody's there who can like hold the phone so they can because I'm not going to be able to do that myself while I'm doing the class. So I'll get somebody to sit there and follow it around and not necessarily get you guys into the class unless there's questions being asked. But I will warn you about that because some people just don't want to be seen on the internet like that. So I'll double check with all of you. You can, if you don't like it, just raise your hand. I'll make sure that you're not seen in any of the videos. Okay. But I will live stream it because I do have people who aren't able to make the actual physical class. So it's all right. But join the live stream. And again, the live stream stays on the channel for quite a while. So you won't miss anything. I don't want anybody to miss anything. And I want you to be able to learn a lot. So Sunday night, 7:15 here in the church, okay? You do have a homework assignment. Remember, I asked you from the very first class to read from the Gospel of John, chapters 14, 15, 16, and 17. Yeah. What's the homework assignment I'm going to ask you? It's not a homework assignment. It's going to be a quiz. I'm going to give you a quiz on those 4 chapters. Don't panic, okay? It's going to be pretty simple. The question is basically this, name, what's one main point from each chapter? Just you choose one thing that Jesus is telling the disciples in each chapter. And you keep it in your head. And then on the quiz, I'm going to ask you to put those down. All right. So if you're smart, what you'll do is you go, you'll write down something from each chapter. You'll have your little sheet. And you'll come to class and you just write down what you put on your little sheet. That's it. It's a way for me to know that you read the chapters, or at least one verse from each chapter, if something like that. But it's also, it keeps us honest, a little more honest on that, okay? So that's it. I'll see you Sunday, and there'll definitely be more homework, okay? God bless you guys. We'll see you. Y también, no he recibido ningún mensaje de alguien en español que no puede comprender lo que estoy haciendo en el YouTube live stream en inglés. Por eso, si es muy difícil, dígame, porque yo puedo hacer estos videos también en castellano, ¿ok? Y siempre en clase, si tienen una pregunta, puede levantar la mano y preguntarme cosas también, okay? All right, guys, we'll see you Sunday night, 7:15. Don't forget, we have mass at 6 in both English and Spanish. It's mostly Spanish with some English, but be there. And then go to mass, and then right after mass, we start class. All right, good night or afternoon. Bye.